Hey everyone, welcome back to the Your Money Your Life podcast, episode 304 of the podcast. I know it's Thanksgiving if you're listening today, so we're going to make this short. We want to make sure that everyone gets a thankful Thanksgiving and actually gets to enjoy time with their family and friends. So we're going to make sure we go through everything that needs to be updated, at least give you the updates that are needed so you can go through the week in power with confidence that you know everything you need to know. So of course, we do this every week, so make sure you share, like, subscribe, comment, and share this. We're trying to pick up our content. Actually, we have picked up content across social mediums, Threads. If you don't follow me on Threads, make sure you do. TikTok, posting almost every day on TikTok is still going. So make sure you follow along on that journey that we are doing. Let's look at the market first and foremost. That's always a good place to start. We've had a good 5 days. The past five trading days, past week, has been really strong, up almost 4%. Past month, we're about flat. 6 months, we're looking at 15%, 15.5% gain. In year to date, about 15.32%. So again, a strong year of 2025 for the market so far. Assuming we end in the green, we'll have another month to go, obviously. So it's been strong though, and that's been really, there was a rebound that we saw after the dip. We kind of had a couple choppy trading days, then a strong rebound. So let's go into like what's market wise, what's going on, and that's the big thing we want to see here. Um, a lot of it is the AI resurgence. It's a simple snapback to the risk off. We had a snapback to risk off, and then you've seen the AI resurgence back into risk. You see people move back into risk, people move back into tech. You had some strong numbers from Google. You had some reports on Google and what they were doing. So there's a lot of things going on. Of course, we know the stock market will be closed today, and on Friday, it'll only be just a half trading day, closing at about 1 p.m., I believe. But yeah, the biggest thing is, we're really in a good stretch of a few years for stocks, right? Like people talk about different assets to invest in. You should have exposure to equities. You should have exposure to stocks. The Magnificent Seven was is what bolstered gains. So if you look at the broader markets, gains were bolstered by artificial intelligence player Oracle, which jumped around 4%. Nvidia shares moved up more than 1%, recovering from a recent pullback. And Microsoft traded 2% higher. Google also traded higher on some reports of a deal with Meta for chips. Meta might be buying Google chips instead of Nvidia chips. We'll see how all that plays out. The S&P, Nasdaq, and Dow are pacing for their best week since late June. The broad-based index is up more than 3% week to date, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq and the blue chip Dow have risen more than 4% and more than 2% in the weekly period, respectively. And so, again, this is good stuff. There was also talk about what the Fed's going to do in December. So, if they're going to cut rates again by one fourth of a percentage point, or if they're going to do nothing. And this analyst was saying that the Fed disappoints, you could have a sell off. So, if they do nothing, you could have a sell off if they disappoint, which would be disappointing the market and not cutting. There was a Fed, New York, it was the New York Fed individual, I believe, that said that it wasn't off the table to cut rates. Traders are only 30% optimistic that rates will be cut coming in this next meeting, but this Fed person said that it was not off the table that they would cut rates, and also they're working on inconclusive data, meaning not incomplete data is a better way to put it. They don't have all the data. They're not getting all the reports that they're supposed to be because of the government shutdown. So how will the Fed operate in that landscape where they're not getting all the reports they need to do their duties? So that's one thing that should be stated. Let's talk more AI. So I don't like talking bad news for people that could be losing jobs, but AI could replace 11.7% of US jobs, MIT study reveals. A recent MIT study suggests artificial intelligence could replace 11.7% of US jobs, translating to about 1.2 trillion in wages. This is reports by CNBC. Using the icebergs index created with Oak Ridge National Laboratory, the research simulates interactions among 151 million workers to assess AI's impact. The findings highlight potential disruptions across sectors, including finance, healthcare, and professional services. The study is designed as a resource for policymakers and underscores the need for reskilling and training as job risk spans all 50 states. So, this interesting report that says, hey, 11.7 US jobs could be gone. That's kind of quite interesting. We'll see. It's really into play with, Gemini 3 coming out and different things that are possible with AI. These are not far off studies, and people have to wake up and either be skilled or trained in it or take things from their under their own purview and under their wings by having their own business, their own consulting, any of those sort of things. Because, when companies figure out ways to implement it, they are going to undoubtedly become leaner. And new startups, new companies aren't going to grow to 500,000 employee headcount. They're going to stay really, really lean. That's like the new model now. Um, so this cannabis industry reveals in revels in pre-holiday sales. So the cannabis industry is reveling in pre-holiday buzz. The cannabis industry is going into Thanksgiving on a high. It's Green Wednesday, which leads up to Turkey Day, has made dispensaries and THC product makers major green. It is now the second biggest sales day for cannabis behind April 20th, also known as 420. Major brands such as Jif, Taco Bell, and Hidden Valley Ranch have caught on. Interesting enough, I didn't know about this. It told me, my wife actually just told me that there was the biggest drinking day is the day before Thanksgiving. That's when everybody gets back into town, goes out to their town bar, and I guess that is the biggest day. So, anyways, just stay safe, people. You never know what's going on out there. Just stay safe. Warner Music Group has settled a lawsuit with AI startup Suno. I saw this floating around in current news, and I'm actually curious about it. But Warner Music Group has finalized a settlement with AI music generator Suno, resolving a copyright lawsuit. This is reported by the Wall Street Journal. The agreement permits Suno to train new models using licensed songs while giving artists and songwriters the ability to opt into the use of their work. Suno users will need a subscription to download tracks, which limits on monthly downloads and options to purchase more. The move comes days after WMG settled settlement with Udio. The pact aims to advance AI-driven music creation while safeguarding artists. Yeah, this is scary. It was shown for for music artists. I've heard of Suno now just because of this story floating around. But Suno is an AI music generated platform. If you go to their website, you can literally just type in, I guess. I've never used it, but I've seen it online. Make a song, and it can make a song for you with just AI generated music. And they're pulling obviously from potential library of what's already created and out there. And now they're able to just like make music. I could become the next music superstar by doing something in Suno. No, I have no interest, but that's such an interesting concept. And it's obviously very dangerous to real artists. Because what's going to stop a Warner Music Group? What's going to stop Sony from not even hiring and dealing with the headache in their mind of molding, developing, and platforming and planting an artist when they can just like type a couple of buttons and create your next implanted industry plant artist, which they've already been doing, but now they can just do it without the headache of having to deal with the artist. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. That's a very, very scary ordeal. So there will be, we're going to have a mass usage of AI. There's going to be an inflection point where everyone's using it, and then there'll be a backlash against it and people kind of reverting. But we'll see. Speaking of AI, OpenAI projects over 200 million paid subscribers by 2030, with ambitions that could be only be funded by a surge in paying customers. OpenAI growth plan may soon resemble that of Slack or Zoom, according to the information, citing the sources. OpenAI expects to reach 200 million paid ChatGPT subscriptions by 2030 via enterprise plan that converts 8.5% of free users into paying customers through a suite of workplace tools like chats and email summaries. Interesting. Well, I'm a paying subscriber, so I get it. I mean, hey, you could be way more efficient as a sole proprietor that's managing over 15 million and work with over almost 480, 500 households. You could be some more efficient, and it makes sense. I like Gemini as well. Use that as well. So there's just so many angles for someone that's building enterprises and has a lot to juggle to use with this stuff, man. It's actually incredible for a sole proprietor. There's never been a better opportunity right now than to build, because there's no excuse if you really want to just try something or start something. There's no excuse. It's way easier now than ever before to build and grow something meaningful now than ever before, and then will be in the future, right? Like people are going to start moving to that model, especially if companies start cutting heads, especially if companies start making harsh decisions. You're going to have to make harsh decisions as well. So that's our biggest stuff for that current news update. Let's rock into more Thanksgiving holiday themed questions of the week. What is the average amount shoppers plan to spend during the Black Friday Cyber Monday period? I already saw the answer, unfortunately, but I'm guessing you're gonna all guess around a few $100, and the answer is $622. That is the average amount shoppers plan to spend. So they're gonna be a little bit less, a little bit more. Let me know what yours is. Question of the day number two: what is the national average price for a 16-pound frozen turkey? That's a good question. I have no clue. My wife's doing all the cooking. I have no clue. What is the average price of a 16-pound turkey? I don't even know. $20? 21.50. I'm close. 21.50. That is a average price for a 16-pound turkey. That's pretty cool. Well, hey, folks, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. You should be hanging out with your family and friends and tuning in to us next week and the weeks prior, and also on our social media. Make sure you spend time with your family right now and friends, and we will talk to you next week.